President Trump making a lot of news during his nearly 2-hour recap of his first year back in office. One big talker was the EO, that's an executive order, Greg. He signed it over the summer to bring back mental institutions.
Signed an executive order to bring back mental institutions and insane asylums. We're going to have to bring them back. Hate to build those suckers. Democrats in New York, they took them down, and the people live on the streets now. That's why you have a lot of the people in California and other places, they live in the streets. They took the mental institutions down.
He also mentioned Gavin Newsom earlier today when he was talking about this. Can we play that as well?
You know, Gavin was here. I used to get along so great with Gavin when I was president. Gavin's a good guy. And we're going to, if he needed it, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd love to see, we did help them a lot in Los Angeles. If I were a Democrat governor or whatever, I would call up Trump.
And one of the reasons he said that, Greg, is because the homeless problems, for example, in California, Gavin Newsom has spent $23 billion on it. It's not helped. And
Spent.
And then you remember, of course, de Blasio's wife was given $1 billion to deal with it. That money went somewhere. Nobody can find it.
Yeah, you know, I just worry if we open up these mental institutions, what's going to happen to MS Now? Like, there goes their audience. But this is kind of where the progressive definition of compassion really becomes exposed. What Trump is promising had actually initiated like 5 years ago, there would be thousands of people who are alive now that are dead, and millions who might be back on their feet. But they turn compassion into this deadly farce that enables a lifestyle that puts the mentally ill and the drug addicted at risk, as well as others who are at risk who happen to share the same subway or get pushed in front of the subway. I mean, how many Dems will be against this because it's Trump? Their politics dictates their compassion, meaning they have no compassion at all. You know, there's all these videos of Obama and Bill Clinton and Hillary floating around talking really tough on immigration, as tough as Trump is now, and yet he's the fascist. But if any Democrat had said we need to get the sick and suffering off the streets, they would probably say how compassionate. But part of this performative ignorance is to, you know, see a naked man defecating in front of a family of tourists and go, oh, he's just expressing himself. You know, he's a victim of patriarchy.
I saw something crazy last week on 8th Avenue.
Guy pooping?
No, he wasn't pooping. He was fully naked.
Wow.
It was cold.
Wow.
And
how you could tell.
Out of control.
Yeah.
He was out of control, and two police officers, Emily, had to try to, you know, restrain him and deal with it.
Did he get back in time for his 6 p.m. show?
We'll find out in 26 minutes. Emily, what I wanted to ask you is about the quality of life issues that this would help for the families of these people, because they're upset, actually the people themselves, and somewhere for them to go. And then the quality of life issues for the rest of us who are trying to navigate them.
I'm sure you guys have gone through the same thing here, where that kind of behavior is normalized, you know, in a 20-minute walk to work. What we see on a daily, it's most people don't see in a lifetime. And what I realized before, during, and after COVID is the same people are out there.
Yes.
You know whose block is, you're like, there he is, or, you know, they are all familiar to us. So to your question about how the families feel, it is so heartbreaking to know that the same elderly woman or the same young guy or the same naked freak on 8th Avenue has been there and is there suffering on the streets through 4 seasons each year with no help whatsoever. What changes things, by the way, is the legal battlefield here, because before there was kind of legal liability, and I think states were frankly afraid of action. And now it sort of shifts the burden to inaction. So states that are the most vulnerable are ones that don't have the post-Grants Pass laws where, yes, they can enforce no public encampment, and also that don't provide mental health treatment. Like, get off your butts. What are you doing with the $253 million, Gavin, or billion, whatever it is? The point is they're doing nothing. So now finally, cities once again can actually do something, or they won't have the federal teat. And I know a lot of this is sort of up and over the heads of people that don't live with this kind of crime, but just a reminder, I decided to pick one. When Christina Yuma Lee here, right here, just a few blocks from here, was stabbed 40 times while she hid in her bathroom. She was 32 years old, by someone who had been arrested 27 times in just 7 years, was bat crap crazy. And cops knew about it, and news knew about it, and the neighbors knew about it. And what happened? She died. She was the sacrificial lamb, one of hundreds of thousands, because he was not committed like he should have been. And now we're paying for 3 squares a day for him because he's in prison.
Harold, could Democrats get behind this idea?
Well, I think they should. Look, I was so pleased to hear the president, what he just said there, saying Democratic governors ring me, Democratic mayors ring me. It's what we were echo some of the things we were saying in the last segment. I think that is great. I love it when politicians are willing to work across the aisle. Now, President Trump, there's some Democrats who are so exercised with him and maybe so constipated in the mind about him because of things he said in the past that got them so upset. But the president could be upset about things that people say about him as well. When politicians give you a line or give you a lifeline to try to solve a problem, do it. I love it when politicians also swing for the fences on things. We've had the kinds of institutions the president's talking about. Some worked, some didn't work, but it might be time to go back to it. And if Governor Newsom wants to call him, he should. If any governor in the country wants to call him, he absolutely should. And for those who think that he can't, this president is the same president who just a few weeks ago had Mayor Mondami from New York, who he called a socialist and a fascist, and the mayor called him a fascist. They met in the White House and talked about things they could do for New York. And then Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, the chairman of the banking committee, was with them, or the ranking member of the banking committee was with them. Senator Tim Scott's the chair, but the banking Democrat, lead Democrat, saying they wanted to work on ways to make things more affordable. Democrats, call him, work with him, try to find ways to reduce crime and reduce the scourge of the problems we face with the mentally ill in our streets. And I hope our governor here in New York is one of the first to call
Jesse,
out.
could this help cities get it together?
Absolutely, Dana.
Yeah.
Remember the 50s?
Yeah.
Greg does. They call it the golden age because there was such low crime and almost no homelessness because we used to institutionalize the mentally ill. And then what came along? Thorazine. The pharmaceutical companies just gave everybody who was crazy a pill. It just turned them into a dumb puppy. So they just gave them a pill, sent them out onto the streets. Then the civil rights lawyers came in and then sued anyone who tried to institutionalize anybody. Like some schizophrenic who just beats people up for a living would say, okay, yeah, put me in a straitjacket. And then it got expensive because it costs like $100,000 a year to put some of these people in these loony bins. So they said, dump them all into the prisons and the streets and the emergency rooms. And what did that do? It just created absolute mayhem on the streets. So it's actually less expensive to build these insane asylums because it's only for a small amount of people committing all of these dangerous and heinous acts on the streets that Dana has to see every darn day.
I mean, it was something.
You know what would be great, though, is if this happens, there'll be liberal cities that build sanctuary cities for the insane. Like have sanctuary policy. If you're crazy, come here.
But that one might be a magnet, and then maybe we can prevent that from happening here. But of course, we're not going to prevent that.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.